the boat.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino. It's the day after Christmas. What's up, everybody? What are you doing today? You working? Still in your PJs? You still going through your presents? Have you built a couple bikes and a dollhouse for the kids? What's going on? How we doing? Got about 24, 36 hours off from the Kings grind. Not really off, but, you know, we're not on the air. A time for reflection, more than anything, spending time with family. Hope you had a great holiday. We'll talk about it on the other side. We've got some breaking news, too. We're going to hit that right off the top of the show in a few minutes. The Kings back in action tonight. Is that a good thing or a bad thing against the Detroit Pistons? And the question that I ask you, is there more on the line tonight than just a W against the Pistons? The Pistons, who are coming into this one, winners of 2 in a row. They knocked off Phoenix and the Lakers. How about that? And you remember this Pistons team coming into the G1C last year and giving the Kings one of their worst losses of the season? Probably the most inexplicable loss of the season. Bad stuff. Can the Kings turn it around? We'll see. We've got things to talk about. We've got some audio from Mike Brown, De'Aaron Fox. What's going on with Fox? Let's talk about it on the other side. We had a big show on Monday. Thank you to everybody that's checked that out, both live and on the replay. We've got a ton of stuff coming up today. In fact, Grant's going to be back at 4 o'clock. Open forum. Make sure you join him. Also, no pregame show tonight. No pregame show. However, halftime, postgame, right here on If You Don't Like That. Jerry Reynolds will be joining us at the half, as he always does. Get involved with the show today. Looking forward to it. We'll dig into it on the other side. Court is in session on If You Don't Like That.
Grant and Ryan, break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the kind of
Williams, the D-Hawk.
Fox. Goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that.
All right, chat coming here in just about 2 minutes. But as I said right off the top, Ryan in Sacktown with you. Hope you are well. We'll talk a little bit about Christmas. Man, it went quick, but it was a wonderful time, at least on our side of the fence with our family. And I'm wishing that it was the same for all of you. I'm sure some of you got some funny presents. Anybody get something goofy? It happens every single year. Usually the gift card's the replacement for the goofy present these days, but they still happen. We get scratchers every year in our stockings. Can you believe that? Santa, nice enough to slide the sleigh right by his corner liquor store and pick up scratchers. For whatever reason, the scratchers that we get, and I've told this story on this show so many times. When I was 16 years old, my parents did this thing. It was before I was 16. We will match whatever you save for a new car. We will match whatever you save leading up to your 16th birthday, and you can get a car. What does Little Rhino do? Little Rhino is about now. He's right about the moment. What can I do now? Didn't really save anything. Maybe like $200, right? And so my 16th birthday rolls around and I get a card, I get a check, and I get some scratchers. Scratchers are one of the things my dad loves to throw into a birthday card, et cetera, et cetera. And so I start scratching them off. I get to the last one, and I waited for the last one because it was like I think it was a $1 scratcher, and the rest were like 5 and 10. And I get to the last one, and I scratch that damn thing off, and it says I won $50,000. $50,000. I look down at it. I look at my parents. I look down at it. I look at my parents. I hand it to my brother. I'm like, tell me I'm reading this right. Dude, you won 50 grand. What? And my parents like, no, you didn't. No, I just won $50,000. I hand it to them. They're like, oh my gosh. My ass goes running down their cul-de-sac. I just took off like Forrest Gump. Just gone out of the house. Like he ran out of the stadium. They had to come catch up to me in one of their cars and let me know that that scratcher was fake. Yes, that was a fake scratcher. That was before like Amazon. That's before a ton of the internet stuff. That was dirty. That means you had to go to Evangeline's in Old Sac to get that fake scratcher. I'll never forget that. But I do have a scratcher story from yesterday. As I said, we've got.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
An urgent and unexpected news story. Maybe a late Christmas gift for the Sacramento Kings. Sean Cunningham reporting that Devin Carter is fully cleared for basketball activities. He wasn't going to be reevaluated until the end of January, early February. That was the timeline. According to Sean Cunningham, he is fully cleared. I've reached out to my sources in Stockton. I have not heard anything back yet, but the Stockton Kings play at the Golden One Center Saturday. I'm not so sure that you might not see Devin Carter in that game Saturday at the Golden One Center. So that is big news for a team that needed some type of lift, that needed some type of mix-up. Hell, coach is going to keep searching like he's talking about to the point where Doug McDermott plays 18 minutes, and I love Dougie McBuckets. Love him to death. Doug's dad, head coach at Creighton, actually follows me on X. Doug's dad, don't take this the wrong way, Coach McDermott. I love your son. He's been a great NBA player, a specialist. But there's not 18 minutes for him in a game like that. There's not. Keon Ellis didn't play in that game. Doug only goes 1 for 4. So does this maybe help Coach Brown out a little bit more? We'll keep our ear to the pavement. Like I said, I have not heard anything yet from some of my sources in Stockton, but Sean is 99.999% of the time right on the money when it comes to these things. So that is a big surprise. Devin Carter cleared early for unrestricted basketball activity. Big news there. Huge news there. So what are your thoughts? Let us know. Devin's going to be going down to Stockton. Not a surprise. He's got to get some run in. They just finished up the Winter Classic for the G League. So, hey, that's a good Stockton team, by the way. That is a good Stockton team. And all you that came in on the pregame show, by the way, y'all remember the pregame show before the first Lakers game and started going in on Stockton? What did Stockton native Gabe Vincent do to the Kings? He killed him. It was tragic what Gabe Vincent did. So let's not go in on Stockton, but what I am saying, big news. That's huge news. That is almost a month ahead of schedule if you are Devin Carter and the Kings during a time where they have lost 4 in a row, searching for answers. A lot of you expected that something would happen, possibly, between the Pacers game and where we're at today with the Detroit game. Nothing has happened. What I can tell you is I'm not hearing a lot. I'm not about possible replacements for Mike Brown. I'm not hearing really any chatter about Mike possibly being replaced. Now, it doesn't mean something could change. Doesn't mean that Mike might not be coaching for his job tonight. He very well could. If this Pistons team comes into the G1C and runs you off the court tonight, that very well may be the case. Who knows? You have an owner that can be all over the place. But what I am hearing is I don't think Monty McNair is going anywhere. You're 6 weeks away from the trade deadline. At a pivotal time for this team. Pivotal time. I don't think, if you're thinking Monty McNair might lose his job and Wes Wilcox might step into the acting role, no, I don't think so. Monty is probably going to be good through the season. It would actually be, you were more than likely giving up on the season. And maybe some of you say the Kings have given up on the season already, but you are more than likely giving up on the season if you get rid of Monty McNair right now, especially with this Fox stuff looming. That is the other element. Your franchise is getting ready to probably make one of the bigger decisions it's made in the last 20 years. Any move on Fox would be far bigger than a move on DeMarcus Cousins. I don't think there's any doubting that. Now, the Hallie trade, what was bigger, the Hallie trade or the DeMarcus trade? I think Fox exceeds both of those easily. So we'll get back into it. I want to get to the chat. By the way, Dennis, man, this guy Dennis, he's been sending me images. He sent me one that actually caught my eye, AI images. It made it onto the show, Dennis. Good job. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's get to all of you. Merry Christmas. We're getting into New Year's. Thanks for being here in the chat. Dennis, last time the Kings lost 5 games at home in a row. There you go. Yep, teams are streaking the wrong way. They've won 2. We've mentioned that. The Pistons are playing well. They put up 133 against Phoenix. Now, Phoenix hasn't had Devin Booker, but they have had Kevin Durant. So really interesting. Yes, we haven't hit this yet. He was not at shoot-around today. He was not at shoot-around. And you remember what Domas said after the game? He seemed like he was not feeling particularly great. He said he did not expect to play 31, 32 minutes, whatever it was, in the locker room. So will Domas play tonight? Look, we know Domas. He's going to do whatever he can to get on the court. Him not being at shoot-around, to me, means that it's more likely that he may not play, but don't take him not being at shoot-around as a sign that he's not showing up today. That means rest your body, get right, show up before the game. He knows what the Kings are doing. He can prepare for Detroit. You don't think that those guys are carrying around iPads and texting and talking with coaches all the time? Of course they are. So it's show up to the building, normal time for warmups. Can you go? He's a game time decision. So good job there. We'll see. We will see. Could be. PK, what's up? Happy to have you here. How's everybody doing? Got to acknowledge you.
Acknowledge me.
How nice was it having a break from the Kings? Yeah, his market. Come on, man. Adam. What am I going to do with you, Adam? Adam, my man. Come on. Is Marvin Bagley available? Don't. Thanks for clarifying. I didn't know what you meant. For trade? Come on, get out of here. Get out of here. John Finch in the house. What's up? Yeah. Ryan, good afternoon. What's up, Wolf? Good afternoon to you. Jeff says Coach Brown will soon be gone. The team is pathetically underachieving. You know, was there a subliminal message? I do have to ask this. I thought about it. I do not, just for the record, I do not listen to other Kings content here in the area. I don't. And it's not because I don't respect the guys. It's because I don't want their opinions to influence mine. So it's not we're competing against each other for viewers and listeners. It's none of that. I don't want my opinions to be formed off of somebody else's. Now, I will listen to some of the national stuff, but when it comes to the other names that you are familiar with, and I know many of them. Cool with many of them. Respect most of them. I don't listen to them. Doesn't mean I don't tell you to go listen to them. If you've been around this show for a long time, I tell you to take in as much as you can and then formulate your opinion. Don't just go off what I say. You got to listen to other people. Listen to what Grant says. Listen to what you say. Listen to what Sean says. Listen to what Matt says. Whatever it may be. But I don't usually listen to other people. But I did make it a point to listen to Dave's last show before he went on vacation. And so I'm not taking credit for this point. This was Dave's question, and I think it was a great one. Was Mike Brown trying to send some type of message to the front office with his rotation that he played against Indiana? I thought that was a brilliant question, and it really made me think. So I'm going to pose it to you. Now, that was Dave's question, not mine. But I thought that was a good one. So let's see. By the way, don't forget, y'all can call the show as well. You got the link in the chat. You can scan the QR code. And we've got the AL hotline. If you want to call 916-822-9485, 916-822-9485. What's up? How you doing, DL Lobo? Al's in the house. There you go. See, that's what I love about the community. Y'all are talking amongst yourself, blowing the chat up. Love seeing it. All right. So we all know what's going on with the Kings. One of the things that was so hard for me, and I'm going to get back to the chat here in a few minutes, but one of the things that was really hard is before the Kings went through this stretch, this 4-game losing stretch, right? I laid out, because the Kings grade their performances in 5, or their performance over a season in 5-game increments. Grant and I do the same. So they had a 5-game increment in which they went 3-2, and that was the first 5 games of Malik Monk starting with this team. The numbers were through the freaking roof. 4 out of the 5 games, 30 plus assists. Field goal attempts were up 9, which means pace was better. 3-point percent was up over 8%. Offensive rebounds were up. Assists were up 6. Turnovers were down 4. Monk's assist to turnover ratio was 3.75 to 1. 3.75 to 1. So how do the Kings go from that and end up going to this? So what you're going to be looking at here is the Kings stats. Left is the last 4 games. Right is their stats over the entire season. In the last 4 games, the Kings have only been scoring 105 points a game. They've had the last 3 games held under 100. Look at the field goals attempted. 92.5, a little bit lower than what they want to be. Look at the net rating. The Kings have been a negative 11.3. 11.3 over this 4-game span for the season. Their net rating is 1.2. The other day, we talked about their net rating in the first quarter. The first quarter. This team is top heavy, right? We've said they're top heavy. Coming back in really quick. Then why are the starters, if your net rating is 1.2 overall, why the hell are you a negative 0.9 in the first quarter for the season? How does that happen? It's a top heavy team. The bench is thin. We know all these things. So is there something wrong with the starting lineup? Do the Kings need to look at the starting lineup different? I think they do. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a little bit. They may have to look at the starting lineup different tonight because Domas is a game time decision. Let's see. SpaceX Dragon Chicken. That's a heck of a handle. Do you guys think tonight will be the night someone throws up on the court after we lose to the Pistons? or still too early in the season? I mean, are we at the point where we're rooting for people to throw up on the court instead of a Kings win? Like, are we past that point? I mean, that makes about as much sense as this.
There's a pony in here somewhere, is the old adage, with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus. Well, that's us.
What are we doing? Come on. What are we doing, Dennis? Kings rookie Devin Carter. Dude, we already went over that, man. Are you putting the same things in the chat? Are we putting the same things in the chat? Come on. Come on, Dennis. Let's step up. So the Kings did practice on Christmas Eve. Kings practice on Christmas Eve. They did their secret Santa gift exchange. All good and well. Mike Brown talked to the media. Also, De'Aaron Fox talked to the media. And look, I'm going to let you form your decision. Here's De'Aaron's first little comments.
You say what's been running around quick?
The word quit.
The word quit? I mean, at what point do we quit? I don't really know what that is supposed to.
Well, everybody think that pretty much just gave up, stopped running.
I mean, they went on a run. Obviously, we were trying to weather the run and go on our own run. We didn't. I think 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. It's pretty normal.
Back-to-back games, too. A little fatigue.
Is what?
A little fatigue made it be the mix in there, too. Would you say so?
No. We couldn't get a stop. We couldn't make a shot.
12th in the West right now. Just what's your perspective on how tough the West is and how much one win streak could still climb you guys up?
I mean, it could help us, but at this point, other teams we're in that spot where other teams have to help us as well. So, obviously, we want to continue to control what we can control, but we've put ourselves in a position to where we kind of don't control our own fate. But at the end of the day, you still want to be able to roll off, a good win streak.
How do you kind of approach you have a few days off? Obviously, Christmas is right in between it, but is it a mental reset? Is there anything you guys try to do to kind of look in the mirror, maybe have tough conversations, or just?
I mean, we got to fix the things that we know we need to fix, and obviously not last game, but a lot of these games are ending in 1 or 2 possession games. So if you can, get a box out here or there, not have a turnover here or there, those games can end differently. So it's a lot of these games. There are close games that the small things are losing us games. So we have to be able to fix those things.
De'Aaron, one more time.
You say what's been running around quick?
Oh, excuse me. The same one got uploaded twice, so we'll cut that. You know what that is to me? That is...
It's a complete crap.
Sounds like your star point guard, not superstar, your star point guard is checked out. How do you address that with a straight face? Excuse me, quit? That was normal? What happened against the Pacers? Am I missing something? De'Aaron, did you say that your destiny is not in your hands anymore? Last time I checked, tonight's game 31. It's an 82-game season. What is going on with De'Aaron Fox? I mean that. What is going on with De'Aaron? I don't disagree that it's the small things that are losing this team games, especially at the end, in the clutch time, where, by the way, you have 2 of the top 5 quote-unquote clutch players in the NBA. But those small things are not just happening at the ends of games. Many of these games are close because those small things begin snowballing and piling on top of themselves from the first quarter to the second quarter, to the third quarter. What's lacking right now is basketball IQ. Now, if you want to put that on the coaches, if you want to put that on the players, you want to put it on both, so be it. I'm not here to pin it on one person. But to me, especially after the week that we went through, this city went through, this franchise went through, with Coach Brown calling De'Aaron Fox out. De'Aaron going on Draymond's podcast. Do I need to reset that? Here was De'Aaron on Draymond's podcast. This was after he said the organization, and I'm going to paraphrase here, needs to do basically anything they can.
So, but, you know, to pass on that amount of money and just play the season out.
For me, man, it has all to do with just the team, the organization. Where are we going? I want to make sure that we're in a position to try to win in the future. Because that's ultimately what I want to do. Like, I know I make enough money regardless of where I play or what I do. Like, I'm going to be fine. Unless, you know, God forbid, you know, knock on wood, you know, that, you know, you have a career in injury. But aside from that, like, I feel like I'm continuing to get better as a player every year. But for me, are we looking like we're continuing to get better year after year? And are we going to be able to compete at a high level? And that's all mine is. Like, if we can show that this year, like, you know, you sign an extension now. If not, like, obviously I still have another year, but that's where my mindset is. At some point, will we be able to compete for a championship or really compete at a high level for a long time?
MMA Forever, shout out. Thanks for the super chat. This isn't tricky. Get Fox a big piece like Butler or rebuild it all with lots of one picks like OKC did. Suck it up for 4 years, then become a top 4 seed. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Now, Shams, by the way, if you weren't paying attention to what's been going on with ESPN, this was Shams earlier today on the Lakers throwing their hat in the ring to improve their roster.
Both. They feel like they've got their top heavy. When you think about LeBron James, Anthony Davis, how do we round out this team around both of those guys? They're monitoring the sellers around the NBA, Portland, Washington, Toronto, maybe Chicago. And my sources in that Lakers front office tell me they're open to moving. They've got 3 first-round picks they can trade. They're open to moving that in a potential trade, but they want a player or players that they feel can get into this iteration of this team now with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but can also play for 3, 4, 5 more years under JJ Redick.
So the Lakers, add them to the list. The Warriors looking to improve. These are all teams that are in front of the Kings in the standings. And by the way, the Kings see the Lakers after the Pistons on the 28th. That'll be the last meeting between these two teams. Now, as for MMA Forever's comment, we're going to roll through some of the stats here as we continue to talk. Here's the Pistons. You can take a look at those as we hit some of these questions. My take, and by the way, I'm not sure MMA Forever, if you saw this, Pat Riley came out and cut the head off the snake. He said, we're done. We're not trading Butler. It's not happening. Jimmy Butler is not being traded. He wanted to minimize the noise that this can cause within an organization, within a locker room. And to be fair, the Kings have dealt with, and not necessarily every King, but you have had 3 or 4 players over the past 2 seasons that have had to deal with that noise consistently. Harrison Barnes, before he got traded. Kevin Huerter, still dealing with that noise. Keegan Murray, not so much last year, but that name has been coming up a little bit more amongst the fan base. My take, MMA Forever, is we have seen what the Kings can do with De'Aaron Fox as your one. He is your star, quote unquote. He is the person you build around. My opinion is he can't get it done. He's not a one. He hasn't done anything wrong. No disrespect to his game. He is a very good player in this league. Borderline star, not superstar, borderline star. But you can't win a championship with him. That's my opinion. That's my take. You can say you didn't do enough around him early in his career, but you can't say that over the last 3 years. You bring in Sabonis, and by the way, you catered to De'Aaron Fox by trading Tyrese Halliburton away. Now, that worked out for both teams. But now you bring in DeMar DeRozan, who's a guy that is fit everywhere. He's gone. Everywhere. He's gone. He can make it work. Can't make it work so far here in Sacramento. Now, I'm not putting that all on Fox. It's not all on Fox. There's a parlay of things we could point to. You could point to the bench, like many of you are. You can point to the lack of moves around the edges on this team, which is fair too. But the bottom line is I just don't think, no matter what you do, De'Aaron Fox. Now, you might be able to win a championship with De'Aaron Fox on your team, but I don't think you can win a championship with De'Aaron Fox as your one. I just don't. De'Aaron Fox, to me, if you take a seat back and you look objectively at his game as a whole, and I mean this with all due respect. I don't mean this disrespectfully to any of these players. But if you look objectively at De'Aaron Fox's skill set, he is much closer to one of those guys like a Russell Westbrook. He's much closer to a James Harden, where they kind of do it themselves. So when they're doing it really well on their own, they'll pick up the team for a win. Now, they pick up the team for a win. When they're not engaged, when they're not playing well, when they're not doing things as good as they should be, they don't pick up their teammates. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. The stats bear that out. Your teammates, many of them, having career lows this year, shooting the ball. Mike Brown continues to point at the lack of ball movement. You've put Malik Monk in the starting lineup. And here's the other thing. You could almost make the argument, should the Kings have paired De'Aaron Fox at some point with a true point guard? Because I think that kind of changes the formula to a degree. Because now you have other guys that can create, and you have De'Aaron that can do the ISO. But now you've got two ISO guys, and you've got one in between in Malik Monk, who's the closest thing this team's had to a true point guard over this 3-year run that the Kings have been on. Can we call it a run? Was it 1 year that was an outlier for this team? In the last year and a half have been who they are. We don't know. We're only 31 games into this season, but it sure as hell is starting to look that way. Speaking of De'Aaron and him speaking to the media, Mike Brown talked to the media as well. Let's hear from Coach.
I respect everybody's opinion, and everybody should have an opinion. That's what makes the world go round and round. But we don't feel we're that at all. We feel like we got a lot of room to grow, and we feel like we're going to get better. We still feel like we're a playoff team, and we feel like there's basketball left. Now, is our time frame or window getting shorter and shorter? Yeah, it's getting shorter. I mean, I'm a realist. It's getting shorter. But the reality of it is we have an opportunity to still be who we think we can be.
With the offense slowing down the last 3 games, just what do you credit that to?
We're not getting out like we had hoped in transition. Our pace isn't great at all, and that's the reality of it. We're not crashing, and the ball's not moving. I mean, I talked about it a couple of games ago. We had one of our season lows in passes, and so when those things happen, especially with the way that we play as a unit, that ball creates synergy. It creates belief, and it gives you energy on not just offensively, but defensively too. And so when that's not happening, you lose a lot in a lot of different areas. So we have to get the ball moving again. We may not be the fastest team, but we're going to have to keep trying to push the ball, and we got to keep trying to find opportunities to get more possessions.
No, it's been about 10 games Malik's been in that starting lineup. What's been your evaluation, pros and cons, and is that something that you reconsider, or you imagine you'll stay there moving forward?
No, I got to try everything. I got to constantly search, not just for who's starting, but even, I threw Doug in there. you know, and didn't play Keon. And so it's my job to keep trying to search, regardless if it's a starting lineup or who's coming off the bench. It's my job to keep trying to search for the different combinations that can help us at the highest possible levels. And while doing that, sometimes, you know what, this action may not work for us, or we may not be able to defend this way. We may have to change that up. So that's what the job is of a head coach, and I'm going to keep doing that until I think that we're at the level we need to be.
I don't know if you saw the game last night or you cared, but Detroit did beat the Lakers. What do you see in that team, you know, coming in here?
I mean, they're big. They're hungry. They're tired of being where they've been the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, if not more, and they're playing like it. There's a level of physicality that they have or that they're bringing to the table every night, whether they win or lose, that was missing before. And you got to give a lot of credit to all their players, their new veteran players that they brought in, because their cast is different.
So that is Mike Brown on the situation with the Kings, what he thinks they can do better. Also, Detroit, they're athletic. Detroit is athletic. Their pace, 18th in the NBA. They play a little faster than that. They can be turned over. That's for sure. They are 23rd in the NBA in turnovers, but that's been one of the bugaboos for the Kings. They're not always out pressuring. They're kind of waiting for the offense to come to them as opposed to going and attacking the offense. Now, Ellis, this is a fair point. It's a fair point. Wasn't Tyrese a point guard? Yes, Tyrese was a point guard. Now, here's the difference. I would tell you Tyrese is closer to the De'Aaron category, closer to the Westbrook category, closer to the Luka. Well, Luka is kind of a bad example, actually, and we're going to talk about Luka in a second. Closer to the Harden category in that they need the ball in their hands a lot. Tyrese has not had a very good season this year, and I think part of that is because the ball has been out of his hands, and he's learning how to play without the basketball, and his assists sometimes can be through the absolute roof. He's been towards the top of the league in assists at times, but that style of pace, that style of play in Indiana has changed a little bit to a degree, and Carlisle let them play that fast style, which Rick usually doesn't do. But I'm saying if you had, and this is, you just saw him, so I think it's a good recent memory that you could pull on. If you had a guy like a TJ McConnell who's not out there to score necessarily, but he's getting everybody involved. He does all the little things. The basketball IQ is through the freaking roof. I think that type of point guard, a Josh Hart type of point guard, somebody like that would work. So that was the big thing. And I know the Kings have done more, specifically last year, getting De'Aaron used to playing without the ball. And that's why the threes went up. You've seen the threes go down a little bit this year, which is a good thing. Now, the threes are not going in. And part of that, I attribute to exactly what Mike Brown said. It's the synergy. There is an energy in the basketball. It's feeling like you are involved in the game. It's getting people to their spots, and there's not enough of doing that. Now, sure, I've seen the percentage of missed wide open threes for this team. You just got to make shots. Keegan Murray's missed a ton of shots this year. That is fair. But as a team, they have missed more open shots. And one thing that they do really well is shoot the corner three balls. Now, most teams shoot the corner three balls really well, but the Kings aren't getting there enough. If we go all the way back to training camp, we were there. One of the principles for this team that Coach Brown talked about, that Monty McNair talked about, was pace number 1, 2, crashing the boards, their crash zones, and then 3 was getting to the corners. The Kings chart some of these different things. They chart deflections, they chart corners, they chart a few different miscellaneous things, crash zones. But getting to the corners is super important for them in transition. Now, you got to be able to get into transition to get to the corners. And that's where the tie-up has been for me, because when they're in the corners, they're shooting the three ball between 40 and 50%, believe it or not. And there's a discussion to be had around DeRozan, and should he be the one when the Kings are in their offensive set, half court wise? Should he be in the corner? Should Keegan be in the corner? Because that's where Keegan made his living rookie year. Broke the rookie record for three-pointers made. So it's the little adjustments like that. In fact, one of the adjustments that I'm going to share here in a little bit, I think it's drastic, but if this is what you have to work with, and especially now, if you're just joining us, the breaking news today, really important. Sean Cunningham broke this way ahead of schedule. Devin Carter, he has been cleared for full basketball activities, probably headed to Stockton. I have not heard from my sources in Stockton, but it would not surprise me if you see Devin Carter playing for the Stockton Kings on Saturday. They are playing at the G1C on Saturday as well. So how would that possibly change the second unit for this Kings? And who do you think from the starting lineup right now should move? If you had to make a move from somebody in the starting lineup right now, who would you move away from? And Coach Brown said nothing's off the table. Malik could go back to the bench possibly. Who would you take out of the starting lineup? I have my idea on who I would. I want to hear from you guys as well. Let's reset what the week looks like for the Kings. Tonight, you've got the Pistons, which we know about. Domantas Sabonis, game time decision. He was not at shoot-around today. He's going to get to the arena, see if he can give it a go later tonight. That'll be... I actually think, I take that back, as I think about it more, if you're going to be missing Domas for a game, this might not be a bad one for the Kings to be able to match up. This might be a heavy Isaac Jones night. You might even see some Orlando Robinson. I think you'll definitely see Isaac tonight, regardless of whether Domas plays or not. But Detroit, very athletic. They're very big down low, so you can combat that size. Now, here was the other big news. One of the things the Kings have had on their side, if you want to say that they're not lucky, you're wrong, because there's one area that they have been lucky in over the past year and a half, and it's other teams and injuries, especially to their stars. It happened many times earlier this season, and now it's happening again. So the Kings, in between the Pistons and their game on the 30th against the Mavericks, they'll see the Lakers one more time, the 28th, which is down in LA. But let's hop ahead to the 30th. Luka is going to be out, possibly indefinitely, for a prolonged period of time, Shams is reporting. So again, the Kings get a lucky break. I know it's one of those jokes going amongst the fan base about teams being more dangerous without their stars. Well, that might be the case, but no Luka Doncic when the Kings play the Mavericks on the 30th. Look, Kings need all the help they can get, but listen back. I'm not going to play him again, but how divergent are Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox's comments? De'Aaron saying you need help from everybody else. Your destiny is no longer in your hands. Mike's like, we can turn this around. We see ourselves as a playoff team. What's going to give? Something is not adding up. It's not. Monk to the bench. Okay. You do lose that spark. That's correct. But the way that Mike Brown has been doing the rotation, go back to this really quick. The way that Mike's been doing the rotation, I actually agree with the starters rest. You do lose that spark, but he's been putting Sabonis and Monk on the bench together to maximize their minutes on the floor together with the pick and roll. But yeah, you do definitely lose the spark. Now, one of the positives that I think is coming out of the move with Malik into the starting lineup is Kevin Huerter is starting to settle in. I know he didn't have a good game against Indiana, but many people have called the show. Mr. Moss has called the show, others, and said that there's a lack of roles on this team. And I agree with that. There is. Kevin knows his role now. And he said it a couple games after being moved to the bench. I know when I'm coming into the game. I know why I'm in the game. And so his mindset is a little bit more there. I'm in the game to score. And you've seen a little bit more of a, to me, confidence from Kevin during the stretch. So that has been a bright spot. Lydia hopping in on the conversation. Nobody is shooting the three any good. Keon is. He's over 40%. I think they're losing and not making fouls, letting other teams with wide open shots. Yeah, well, there's something to be said about that. 100%. We've talked about the defensive principles on this team, and they're leaving. I'm not going to get into the minutia and the basketball. I'm not going to break the game down to a micro level, but they're leaving guys on the strong side of the basketball defensively, which you should never, ever do in the NBA. Yeah, you'd move Ron Artest into the starting lineup. Yeah. Is Ron still around? How about that take? Let's move Ron Artest into the
Great
starting
success.
lineup. Great success by you, Ron. Love it. Coach Brown seems so disconnected and lost. De'Aaron thinks they're trying. Playing and not quitting. This team is delusional. The film and the stats show it. So who's delusional? Is it De'Aaron, Greg? Or is it the coaching staff? If you're going to talk about who seems less connected, it's probably De'Aaron. Mike says, I know I got to keep looking for combinations. I know we got to do better. At least Mike is saying somehow, some way. And this whole question about has Mike lost the team? I talked about this with Mr. Moss on Monday. I don't know that Mike ever had the team this year. And what I mean by that is I don't know that the team believes, or individuals on the team believe, that they're being used properly. We do know this. The starters have played massive minutes this year. 15, 20 games into the season, you had 4 out of 5 starters in the top 10, or no, the top 11 in minutes in the NBA. One guy who has been under the microscope this year is Keegan Murray, still looking to get it going. Here was Keegan today after shoot around.
Trying to be aggressive as possible on both sides of the ball, just to get myself going, and I think eventually that's going to help me throughout this season. So I'm just going to keep that mindset of staying aggressive, and eventually things will figure itself out.
It seems like you've been trying to do that at the beginning of the games as well. Is that something that you've been focused on, trying to get off to a good start those first few minutes?
Yeah, because I think in games, especially once the season gets long, you kind of, especially for us, you get off to slow start. So for me, just to get myself going, just feel contact early, and I feel like that's just something to get myself going, and for me to just kind of feel out what the game's like.
You're a pretty even kill dude. How have you dealt with sort of this roller coaster ride of the season you guys have been on so far?
Yeah, it's been different, especially from my first couple of years here. Obviously the city of Sacramento and things like that. Just being able to provide them with good basketball, I think, is a big thing for me in winning basketball. So I think that's something I said earlier in my career. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes to try and change that.
I saw last night Mason posted on social media you're getting shots up on Christmas Day. Is that just the change? Does not your routine doesn't change depending on the holiday or anything like that?
No. My mom was making lunch, so I just found the time to get out of the house real quick, just to go get some shots up with Mason. So.
What stands out to you about the Pistons team coming in tonight?
Yeah, they play fast. They're a team that I feel like isn't making as many mistakes as they were the last couple of years, and
they are able to turn people over. We talked about the Kings being able to turn them over as well. The Kings, one thing Mike Brown has said, they are not getting out in fast break, in transition enough. That definitely needs to improve tonight. We've still got a lot to talk about here on the channel, including this. We're going to get to this in a few minutes. You remember this sign? This has been a Mike Brown thing that the Kings do before every season since Mike's been here. They have a sign that and there's a couple of them, but they're all in together. Is everybody all in on this team? Is everybody all in? Climbing together was the theme of this season. Climbing together. Kings have not climbed this year. They have descended this year. So we'll get to that in a little bit. I'll tell you about my change to the starting lineup as well. And then we're going to get to all your comments. Remember, you can call the show. Don't forget, call the show 916-822-9485. You can use the QR code that's on the screen. You can call through Restream. I will put this in the chat one more time for you if you would like to call, but all those lines available if you want to get on the action. We'll definitely get back to the chat as well. Before that, did anybody make it out to Bennett for the holiday or before the holiday? If you haven't, you need to. Bennett's West Side Grill, their newest location out of the 3 over in Rockland in the Blue Oaks Town Center. If you got plans for New Year's or you're maybe having a get together, think about Bennett's. Not only do they have prime cuts of seafood and steak, they do some amazing, and I mean amazing, catering for parties. Don't take it from me. Take it right from the man himself, Brian Bennett.
I don't know about you, but if you're thinking about having a holiday party or a party of any kind, and you don't ask us to make our house smoked salmon, to grill our prime New York steak, to grill long stem artichokes, to make ahi pokey. What are you talking about? You're going to have a party and you're not going to call Bennett's to have them take care of you? My goodness gracious. Give us a call. We can make this for Easter. We can make it for Christmas. We can make it for anybody's.
Cool. That is Brian Bennett himself right there. Go check him out. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. You can also make your orders to go right there from the website. You can make reservations and check out all their great specials. There's a special going on damn near every day. Happy hour today, 2 to 6 o'clock. Weekend brunch this weekend. Big thanks to all of you that have supported Bennett's. We really appreciate it. Let them know. Let them know that you heard about them here on the channel, and let us know when you go in. We will definitely highlight that as well. That is Bennett's West Side Grill in Rockland, bennettsrestaurants.com. Let's go to the phones. Ashley, you're on the King's Court. What's up today, Ashley?
So not much, but you were asking what changes I'd like to see or we'd like to see in the starting rotation or to the lineup.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that what we ought to do is we got to take DeMar DeRozan, and personally, I would take Monk, but if you wanted to leave Monk in the lineup, I'd be okay with that. But I would take DeMar DeRozan at least out and put Keon Ellis in. And if I was taking Monk out, I'd put Herter in. Let him know that his role is still the scorer. But the reason why is I'd say it'd be better to have a starting unit where we have Fox and people who could run with him and that he's had chemistry with and time with to develop and play several years on the court with and has had success with. And then we could have a second unit where we could have Monk and DeRozan out there, and we're going to get about 35, 40 points a game off the bench if we do that. So it fixes our bench issue, if you will, while also allowing DeMar to slow it down at times. While if Monk has a fast break, we might have Lyles or Sabonis or someone else out there who could get the ball out to him, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's a decent take. Good job, Ashley. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for calling.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Good take from Ashley. Well done. You know, Ashley and I are closer in our thinking than we are apart. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Murray is a big disappointment. Good on defense, but it's not helping the team score. Dave, you know I love you, brother. But Dave, did you watch the Denver game? Did you happen to see that game? Keegan Murray can guard 1 through 5. I don't. Okay. How about you think of Keegan Murray more like a Cephalosha? He still works with this team. We know he can score, but if we can look at both sides of it, yes, there's more he can do offensively, but his worst offensive season to date is also going hand in hand with his best defensive season of his career. This Kings team defensively would be absolutely lost without Keegan Murray. Lost. What's their defensive rating right now? Defensive rating 16th, so it's continuing to drop. They would be lost. I don't put the defense. Here's the thing. The Kings are 16th in defensive rating. And when it comes to the three ball, they're the second worst team at defending the three ball in the league. To me, that is more of a scheme issue rather than a player issue. Now, the players play into it. You have to contest. You have to close out. Our on-ball defense is not great, but when I'm watching it, it's not second worst in the NBA to me. Now, to go hand in hand with that, they are 24th, meaning they give up the 6th most threes in the NBA. Now, granted, over the past 5-6 games, that number's gone down. The Kings were the second worst team in the NBA in attempts. So the number hasn't gone down much. It was at 39.8. It's at 38.9 now. That's the problem. That is the problem. Leaving strong guys on the strong side wide open. You can't do that anymore in the NBA. So that's a scheme thing more than anything, but I don't think we can say Murray is a disappointment. Defense is just too damn good. Way too good. Okay, so this is what Dennis sent me. One of many AI images that Dennis sent me. We got Vivek there. By the way, Vivek, so tone deaf. So tone deaf. I know it's the holidays. I get it's a time for joy. But your team, my man, is at like its lowest point, and you're putting out videos on Instagram about your stories of success. How about you hold that video and improve this team and use that story in your stories of success? I don't think anybody in the fan base wants to hear it, but I put the Grinch thing here. I actually think it's kind of fitting because Dennis, he's always sending me a ton of these things. Anything breaks on the Kings, Dennis thinks I haven't heard it already, but I love it. I love the passion. I said it the other day and I'll say it again. Dennis, man, you are, what did Kevin call you?
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.
You're a filthy animal, Dennis. You are a filthy, passionate Kings fan animal. But Vivek in this whole thing, I get that Vivek gets a bad shake around these parts for being over-involved, for maybe reportedly having some wild theories. Yes, I know the Nick Stauskas pick damn near came from Vivek. I'm not going to reset all that. But can I remind you that it could be a hell of a lot worse? It could be way worse. At least you don't have Vivek running shoot-arounds. At least you don't have Vivek running practices. It could be a lot worse.
A quarterback that can drive the ball downfield. This quarterback, Wheaton, can drive the ball downfield. Now he's
Brandon Whedon, he was a hell of a player. How about a little more Jarrah for you?
With huge amounts of money. Be careful. Be careful. Look under the hood. Give it a lot of consideration as you make decisions regarding what you have as far as keeping it. You don't have to be smart to make money. You do not have to be. You can be very talented. You can be very driven. You do not have to be smart to make money, but you have to be real smart to keep it.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Jerry. I know the Kings are
struggling,
but it could be way worse. So back to Vivek. I think it's fair to maybe look into or be critical of opportunities this team has had in the past to maybe spend a little bit more. I get it. But I don't know how much of this right now we can put on Vivek. I don't know what Vivek's doing behind the scenes. If Vivek decides to fire Mike Brown, then so be it. Mike's going to have a big ass pocket full of money to last him for a while. We know Vivek likes Mark Jackson. If you think Mark Jackson's going to work in Sacramento, maybe he would work, but it'd only be 50% of the time because he would only be in Sacramento 50% of the time. Vivek, through all this, and I can't believe I'm going to defend this, Vivek has actually been okay. We're not hearing crazy things. There's not smoke coming from the Sacramento Kings office. The crazy changes may be happening. Now, Vivek and Monty McNair, Wes Wilcox, whoever else, they have the biggest decision to make that they have made in their tenure on this team. Regardless of what's going on right now with De'Aaron Fox, that decision was already coming up. So I just actually wanted to give Vivek a little bit of love, and I thought that was a funny image from Dennis. All right, let's go back to the phones. And then AB, I'm going to leave your comment up because you and Ashley are peppering my opinion. Al, welcome in.
Ryan, how you doing, pal?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I a couple comments with the Kings, all that going on with the Kings. You know, I found this article, all the talk about. I went back and because I recalled when they first traded for DeRozan, how some of the the reactions were actually not. People questioned the fit, and I think you and Grant talked about this. And I looked at this one guy. I sent you this article, as a matter of fact. They emailed it to you. I don't know if you got it, but this guy gives the Kings trade for DeRozan a D-. Now, me being not an NBA guru like a lot of listeners and Kings fans, I'm just thinking, hey, wait, you add a 6-time All-Star to your team, and this guy's giving it a D- because he just absolutely questioned the fit. I mean, he was just questioning. He was saying that DeRozan was he called him a ball stopper. I mean, I'm not putting this on DeRozan, but there's been a D- for a guy who's a 6-time All-Star. This is a guy, I don't know. He just went in depth on his reasoning for how was going to affect the team with the Kings. What Brown had implemented his first 2 seasons with their style and their moving the ball up and down. And what's your take on it? I mean, I know this has been debated, but maybe Ashley saying bring DeRozan off the bench, that might really, the light bulb might go on, because if DeRozan, if this is, there's some truth to that, still a lot of people believe, maybe Kevin DeRozan and Monk come off the bench. That might be a great opportunity to really have a good hard look at if that's the source of the Kings' struggles,
Yeah. Al, I'm gonna give you my comments off air. Thanks for calling, buddy, and Happy New Year. Hope you had a great Christmas.
Oh, all right. Take care now.
All right, buddy. That is Al. We set up that phone line just for Al, by the way. All right, you guys are all peppering it. Al killed it. Now, the D-, I don't think it's a D-, but AB, Ashley nailed it. DeMar DeRozan should be coming off the bench. Let me repeat that. I think DeMar DeRozan should be coming off the bench. You haven't had an opportunity to experiment with that position because of the lack of health on this team. When I went back and I watched the last 4 games, and Grant asked me this probably 3 or 4 games ago before I had even rewatched all of them. Hell, they hadn't even happened. But yeah, you get my point. The spacing is completely off with what the Kings want to run. And it's not necessarily a scheme per se. It's just where DeRozan's at in his career. DeRozan is not Keegan Murray in terms of activeness that's going to be cutting backdoor all the time. He's not going to be doing DHOs. He's going to be the one doing the dribble handoff, right? So you now have 2 guys on the floor in Sabonis and DeRozan. Now, they're great in their own ways at times, but they're not doing a ton of moving. Sabonis doesn't move as much as you think he does. Now, he's all over the place when that ball is loose. But when you're in an offensive set, Sabonis is usually trying to work his way open down low. The move that I would make is absolutely putting DeMar DeRozan on the bench as your 6th man. You leave Malik Monk in the starting lineup, and you replace DeMar DeRozan with Trey Lyles. You move Keegan to the 3. You move Keegan to the 3, Trey to the 4. The reason I'm doing that is because Trey's game is based off of so much motion. He likes to get in there. He likes to muck it up sometimes. In fact, he's probably one of the 2 players that are the closest to having a little bit of, como se dice, prick in them. Having some dog, as everybody says. I'm putting Trey into that starting lineup. Trey's game is the 3-pointer. We know that. He hasn't shot it particularly well. Doesn't mean he's not a threat from the 3-point line. What that now does is outside of Fox, who you have to ISO on if you're covering him defensively, and outside of Domas, where you got to pay them a ton of attention, you now have constant motion between the other parts. And you could almost make the same argument for Malik Monk as well. That gives you more space to operate with the pick and roll with Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis. In fact, you look at so many of these turnovers that the Kings have had over the past 10 games, it's because they're trying to get cute. They're giving up really good shots for what they think is going to be a better shot. But because in proximity, the players are all just huddled in there, they're packed in there too tight, these guys are too long. A pass from me to my television on the wall right there, although it looks like it's a short pass, it's like nothing compared to having guys on an NBA court that are between there because of their 8-foot wingspan sometimes. So that somewhat eliminates that problem because you are now spacing the offense out. Now, offensively with the second unit, now that you have Devin Carter coming back in, you got to think he's going to get a ton of minutes there. Your second unit could look something like this. Devin Carter, Kevin Huerter, DeMar DeRozan, Keon Ellis, and whoever Mike's going to keep in from the starters. Let me tell you why that second unit works. Keon, constant movement, defensive animal. Devin Carter, supposed to be a very good defender. We have not seen him play yet. With those guys on the court, Kevin Huerter, constant movement. You are now opening up space for DeMar DeRozan to operate. Also, if DeMar DeRozan is cooking, even if he's not cooking, we've seen him get double teamed at times. What's that going to do? That's going to open somebody up on that second unit, especially a guy like Kevin, to spot up in the corners. And Kevin, whether you want to admit it or not, he has been better coming off the bench. To me, I don't think DeMar would have an issue coming off the bench. To me, DeMar will probably still play somewhere in the same neighborhood of what he's playing right now, but it balances things out role-wise, I should say. Roles are so important to basketball, and the roles are just completely funky right now. Because Fox, ISO guy. DeMar, ISO guy. Sabonis, I don't really know what he is right now because you're not running the offense through him. And I don't mean I don't know what he is as a player. I don't know the perfect role that Mike wants him to play. What we do know is the DHOs, when the Kings were winning, were down. The dribble handoffs, they were down. Pick and roll was up. Now, over the last 4 games, both games against the Lakers, the dribble handoffs were up inexplicably. I don't know why they did that, but they did. Put DeMar DeRozan in the second unit. Ashley nailed it. AB nailed it. PK nailed it. Al nailed it. Put him in the second unit. Start Trey Lyles. Now, the other problem is Trey Lyles has not been healthy a ton. But that is what I am doing with the second unit, and that's how I'm changing the starting lineup. This will be the longest losing streak. We got it. Flores, I'm going to say tonight is a must win. Yeah, it is. Is Vivek's hand going to be forced if the Kings lose tonight? I've already talked about it, and I did earlier in the show. The problem is between your head coach and your star. Now, the answer to that problem, there isn't just one. And there's a lot of different ways you can go. And as a Kings fan, you've got to ask yourself this. Does a different coach, and De'Aaron Fox has had many coaches, does a different coach improve De'Aaron Fox? Along with that question, you have to ask yourself as well, have you tried everything you possibly can to win with De'Aaron Fox? Have you? Realistically. Are you willing to give up pieces to the future and go all in with De'Aaron Fox? Are you willing to do that? Those are the big questions about whether you come out on the Fox side of the fence or you come out on the let's try something else. Because I truly believe if you move on from Fox, this is more of a recalibration. If you do it the right way, you do it at the right time, which would be around the trade deadline, because the Kings will take a haircut right now because they're in a place where the rest of the NBA knows that they need to make a move. You wait till the trade deadline and you do it then. That, to me, is the best scenario for this to be a recalibration rather than a rebuild. You try to build this team out still with it not working the way it has through 31 games and having already played your ace in your sleeve by starting Malik Monk. You are now running the risk of De'Aaron Fox saying, after these moves possibly not working, no, I still don't want to be here. I want to trade. I'm not going to re-sign. Trade me. And then where's the franchise at? So are you going to get ahead of it? Because, again, De'Aaron seems disconnected to me. He seems completely disconnected from this team, or at least what this team is selling. If you just tuned into the show, this was De'Aaron Fox on Christmas Eve.
You say what's been running around quick?
The word quit.
The word quit? I mean, at what point do we quit? I don't really know what that is supposed to.
Well, everybody think that the team, pretty much just gave up, stopped winning.
I mean, they went on a run. Obviously, we were trying to stop to weather the run and go on our own run. We didn't. I think 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. It's pretty normal.
You know, back-to-back games too. A little fatigue.
It was what?
A little fatigue maybe to be the mix in there too. Would you say so?
No. We couldn't get a stop. We couldn't make a shot.
12th in the West right now. Just what's your perspective on how tough the West is and how much one win streak could still climb you guys up?
I mean, it could help us, but at this point, other teams we're in that spot where other teams have to help us as well. So, obviously, we want to continue to control what we can control, but we've put ourselves in a position to where we kind of don't control our own fate. But at the end of the day, you still want to be able to roll off.
That's not all into me. That's not all into me. Dennis, the link's not working. Here you go, brother. Let me get you in here. Dennis is actually going to call. We're going to hear from the one and only Dennis. Here you go, Dennis. And everybody else, you want to call, we've got about 25 minutes left in the show, leading you in to Open Forum Monday with Grant. He'll be here at 4 o'clock. Join him for Open Forum, taking your questions, also talking about the Kings, talking football. We haven't even talked the pigskin yet from yesterday, and much more. Join him 4 o'clock right here on If You Don't Like That. And then don't forget, we are back for halftime. Jerry Reynolds joins the show, break down the first 24 minutes, and then post game, Grant and I will be taking your calls after the Kings and the Pistons. You got to read between the lines, y'all. De'Aaron Fox is checked out. Can anything check him back in at this point? I don't know. That's my take. Try to move me off of it. I just don't see it. Let's go back to the phones. Dennis is actually calling up. Dennis, what's up, dude?
Yo, Rhino, can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear, brother.
Right on. So my take on everything, it's a lot to do with the build of the team. Obviously, we're still, inquiring about all these players and whatnot. And I think it's a size and length thing, to be honest. But when we did have DeMar in the starting lineup and it was clicking, not saying that he's not going to be in the starting lineup, but it's like it was a lot more ball movement. Guys were making shots. Now I feel like everything's being force-fed. ISO. The ball's sticking a lot more now.
Yep.
Not a lot of ball movement. The rotations not consistent. Like Coach said, he's throwing things out there. And when you do that, you're just, you're leaving Keon off the floor, and he's your second leader in blocks on the team. And he's only a 6'3" guard or whatever it is. So that tells you a lot. Like, we don't have that length to go against these teams and expect not to get out rebounded. I guess I hustle's everything. I get that, but if you're a 6'3" guard going against a 6'9" or other Denver guy or Anthony Davis, Rua all the time, it's not a common practice that we're going to win at. But what we were winning at was ball movement. Everybody was touching, everybody was hitting. And then when that stopped, we put Monk in, and it's just been just reaching for these guys to stay consistent, hit your threes, but we're not doing that right now. So now it feels like everybody's trying to force. And that's not what we're good at, and what we're good at, excuse me. And we need to build upon, getting everybody touches, making sure everybody's involved. And I feel like when Fox is in his thing, he's not really looking to get people involved. He's just looking to get his,
right.
And that's not winning ways. And we got to get out of that mindset to make sure, hey, you're getting your touches, you're getting your shot. Everybody needs a shot. Everybody needs to get involved. Unless Fox takes over the game with 60 points tonight, So that was my take on everything.
And Dennis, that's the thing. And it's not like a knock on De'Aaron Fox. It's just his game. That's who he is. And I don't know that we've separated the two. I mean, if you had to put him in two categories, he's not the point guard. He's not. What makes the superstars is they can take over the game, and they do take over the game when they need to. But they're also conversely making their teammates better at all times, like an SGA, a Jalen Brunson, all those things. And Fox, again, no discredit to him. It takes away from the team when he has to get his, and it stalls the ball movement. Now you add the DeMar DeRozan element into that. There's almost like this responsibility to get DeMar DeRozan involved too. So I'm with you, man. The ball movement's so huge. Go back to what the Kings did in 22-23, Dennis. It's ball movement. Dennis, and I'll ask you this, you follow this team as close as any fan that I know. If you were setting up a defense on how to guard the Kings, what are you scared of? How are you guarding them?
As in, like, who's my threat? Like, yeah, I'm going to stop Fox. I'm going to load up on him, trap him, and then just settle for whatever else you're going to give me, because I know if you don't have Fox going, this team, Bonus is going to get his 16, 16, 16 and 20.
Right.
But I know I have a lot of depth at length against him, because that's where the Kings are short on. I can throw a lot of 7-footers at him and bang with him all game, wear him down until he falls out, because we know he, likes to reach a lot. But my only thing is, yeah, I would stop Fox and load up on Demonis with my bigs, and that would be my game plan consistently.
The Kings are the easiest team to guard in the NBA. Even with Fox, they're predictable. They are easy. Now, when they move the ball, like you said, completely out the window. Things change when they get in transition. Great call, Dennis. Way to kill it, dude. All right, thanks, Dennis. Good job. I have not talked to this guy one-on-one. It's gonna be the first time. PK, what's up, man?
Oh, hello, bitches. Hey,
I'll
hey,
allow
Ryan.
it. I'll allow it.
Merry
You're
Christmas,
good.
Brian. Everybody in the chat. Hey, Merry Christmas to you guys as well. Great chat. We're building Ryan's chat up. Now we got actually people watching this, so it's not
Love it.
only 10 of us. But Ryan, what is off? There's something like logistically off that makes no sense. You can obviously tell that Fox and DeRozan, they don't like playing together. I think as Kings fans, we're like the best fans out there. We can notice the smallest changes in our team. We can tell that DeRozan and Fox that don't want to play together.
I wouldn't take it that far that they don't want to play together. It's just not working together. Even going back really quick, PK, to Phoenix, right? DeMar, when he went on his run in overtime, he went to De'Aaron and was like, all right, now it's time for you to take over. Like your best teams, that just happens naturally.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. As Kings fans, we know that every time we take Monk off the bench, when he loses his legs, he can't shoot his threes. We saw it last year. We saw it previous year. When he plays too many minutes, sometimes he loses his legs towards the end. When we have him on the bench, he's a sixth man of the year. Now we have DeRozan at 36 years, who is shooting nothing but jump shots. Is it just possible? Is there like a slimmer of possibility that when we play DeRozan 39 minutes on this roster, not Bulls, but on Kings roster, that the reason that we are kind of falling apart towards the end of the game is the fact that they're losing their legs, even Sabonis?
You know what, PK? Monk's minutes have not changed significantly since he started, but I don't disagree that sometimes legs catch up to him. They definitely didn't in that 177 game in the LA a couple seasons ago. But it's possible. Look, Sabonis even said after last game he was surprised he played as many minutes as he did, and that was a little bit of an eye opener for me. So there's a lot to pick apart. I get it, brother. Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Thanks for building this thing up, man. I appreciate you and everybody here right now.
Hey, we love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
Bye.
PK checking in. Look, okay. So I think this is fair, Jonesy. You're saying as an outsider looking in, we're overreacting a bit. The West is cluttered. One big win streak could turn it around. You're right that one win streak could turn it around, but here's where we're not overreacting. Something's off about this team. I know something is off within the building that holds this team. And I'm not the only one. Doesn't mean that they're not capable of running off 6 or 7 in a row. What it means is they are capable of running off 6 and 7 in a row and then losing 8 of 10 after that. And it's what we just saw over the past 3 weeks. So just like PK said, Kings fan can notice the little things. They can pick things apart. Kings fan was booing in the third quarter, and there was a couple of scattered boos in the second quarter of the Pacers game before the avalanche came in that third quarter, in the early fourth quarter. You could see the writing on the wall. There is something right now in the wiring that cannot be fixed. So it's not an overreaction to that degree. Doesn't mean that they still couldn't run off some games. You know, one thing that I talked about last season, I talked about it heavy last season, and many of you were putting structure into the comments. The Kings need more structure. If you want to look objectively at the Mike Brown coaching era here in Sacramento, there's a couple things that we need to look at. Historically, before Mike Brown got here, is he more of a player's guy, or is he more of an authoritarian? Is he one of those guys that's like a Kerr, or is he more like a Pop? And he's coached under both of them. Well, he's probably more Kerr, but then at times tries to be Pop, right? At least that's my take on it. Mike Brown, if we had to rule one way or the other, has been a player's coach in Sacramento. We look at 22-23, what this Kings team did. They break the playoff drought. 16-year drought. Many of us feel they should have gone farther than they did. They lose in 7 to the Warriors. Many of you thought that that was on Coach Brown, not playing Davion Mitchell. Here's what I'm saying. That year was natural. The ball was humming that year. I'm also going to say this. That year was unexpected. When Mike Brown was introduced as the coach of the Sacramento Kings, he was preaching defense, defense, defense. And what happened that year? Summer League. Holy crap. Keegan Murray. He's got a little bit of three-point shot. Did you see the Kings? They scored 40. They hit how many threes? What? Holy crap. The Kings won Summer League. Oh, it's just a Summer League thing. They're not playing against professionals. No way it's going to roll into the season. What's it do? Rolls into the season, right? The West was down that year. There's no doubting that. The West was down. There were a lot of injuries. And the Kings were, by a long shot, the healthiest team in the NBA. I mean, by a long shot. The difference between them and the next closest team, which was the Knicks, was a mile. Everything broke right that season. Now, one thing that happened that season was things were more structured. Rotations were more scheduled, more consistent. We thought this team was getting better, right? Not saying they can't still get better. They can. But last year, coming into that season, a lot of expectations for this team, and something was just completely off. Something was different. Halfway through the season, we're yelling for structure. Structure, structure, structure. We get all the way down to the end of the season, right before the play-in, media availability, and Coach Brown was asked a question. And he said that unlike, and I'm paraphrasing here, unlike last year, speaking to the playoff year, I have barely called any plays this year. I've let the guys call it on the court. That was a drastic difference. Massive difference. The Kings come out, play in against the Lakers, play one of their best games, probably the best game of that season. It was structured. IQ was through the roof. They were running plays, getting everybody involved. They were thinking 2 steps ahead. They were adjusting. It was the Kings, really. It was a perfect snapshot of what this Kings team could be when everybody right there was all in. This year, it's been a complete mess. Now, you lose Jordi Fernandez. Does that play a big role into things? Maybe. Maybe not. Jordi was the defensive coordinator, but yet, if you look at it as a whole, the defense is actually better this year. Mike Brown, this preseason, awful preseason, by the way. Kings could not shoot the 3 ball. He was asked after the preseason about concerns with the shooting rolling into the regular season and concerns about the offense. And mind you, that first preseason game at the G1C, do y'all remember DeMar DeRozan going 6 for 6? And it was structured. And it was running like a well-oiled machine. Maybe it was the honeymoon phase, whatever it may be. But Mike Brown, speaking to the shooting struggles in the preseason, said, I handcuffed the guys. You put that on me. That's my fault. I only allowed them to play out a certain sets. Okay? And now let's fast forward to where we're at now. If you want to read between the lines, if you want to look at the writing on the wall, I think it yells this. Once you hit a certain point as a player's coach and you give the players the majority of the autonomy, it's really hard to take that back. Pulling that back can cause a lot of issues, can cause a lot of disagreements. It can cause dissension if you don't feel like you are being used correctly. And it can go wrong really quick. I don't know if that's the case inside that Kings building now, but I can say this. The timeline of events certainly lines up. And if you've lost a team or you're having those issues, and I think it's really important that we draw a line in the sand between losing a team and losing a member of the team mentally. Listening to De'Aaron Fox's comments on Christmas Eve, he doesn't seem all in to me. Now, whether you put that on Brown, whether you put that on De'Aaron, that's up to you. Those details will eventually come out. I'm not going to get into De'Aaron Fox's track record. Now, I want to be clear too. De'Aaron Fox, to me, has done nothing wrong, with the exception of how the last 2 weeks have been handled. The last 2 weeks have been handled just about as bad as you can handle 2 weeks. In fact, I would argue if you are trying to get your way out of town, that is closer to the playbook that De'Aaron Fox has been playing. So the Sacramento Kings now have a decision. Is it a Mike Brown problem, or is this who De'Aaron Fox is? And that's where Monty McNair, Vivek Ranadive, and I know there's a million other problems that need to be addressed, whether it's defense, rotations, etc., personnel. This team needs to get better. So many other things. But the first thing that needs to be answered is that Because you can't address those other things until you address Brown Fox. Period. End of story. You can put all the lipstick you want on a pig. At the end of the day, it is still a pig. Meaning you can go and make all these moves to improve this team on paper and maybe improve them for a couple of games. But ultimately, it's all going to come back to what's at the top. Fox and the organization. Fox and Brown. Because the only definite here is De'Aaron Fox's contract, which runs out at the end of next season. So there is a lot at play, both tonight, the rest of the season. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this team comes out tonight. Because this Detroit team is not going to be a cupcake. They've won their last two. They beat the Lakers most recently. They put up 133 in Phoenix, beating them. They're athletic. They're good. Detroit came in and beat the Kings last year. Was one of the worst teams in the NBA. So pay attention. We'll see what they do. Domas Sabonis, remember, he is a game-time decision, was not at shoot-around earlier today. A big thing, too, don't forget Sean Cunningham reporting, Devin Carter, fully cleared. Fully cleared. Expected to go to Stockton. I've reached out to my sources in Stockton, waiting to hear back right now. See if I can find out anything about the plan with him. Would not be surprised, by the way, if Devin Carter is available for Stockton's game on Saturday, which is being played at the Golden One Center. So that is a huge boost for this Kings team. How long will it take Devin Carter to get up and going? You got to give him a good couple weeks, maybe. Especially, I would say at least a week or 3 or 4 games in the G League to get some run under him. The good thing about this team and what the G League team does is you got guys that are going back and forth, guys that are getting minutes at times here in Sacramento, and also Quentin Crawford, Gabriel Harris, the entire team in Stockton. They're doing a great job, both with that roster and how it's run. So I think it will be tremendously helpful to get Devin some minutes down there. So that's a big bump for the Kings, according to Sean Cunningham. Looking forward to that. And again, we posed the question at the start of the show, what does it look like? Does this Kings team look different? Is there more on the line than a victory tonight against the Detroit Pistons? Haunted Horse, all I can say about the Kings season is this: Ryan has to decide either clean shaved or beard. What are we doing, dude? Why do you always criticize that, Haunted Horse? You always criticize that. Come on, man. What are we doing? 16 years felt like 100. True. What's up, Scott? How you doing? Or Scout, excuse me. This roster has no leader, so the coach needs to be that guy. Coach needs to call plays and demand structure. Well, again, it's really hard to take that back once you've given it to the guys, or at least the leaders of this team. Could that be part of the solution, part of the problem here in Sacramento? I came on Tuesday before Christmas, and I told you I had talked to a bunch of the people that I respect that are close to this team. I talked to some people that are in the know in that building. And the consensus was this: there is not one answer. Here's my take. I just gave it to you at the end of the show. You got to figure out Brown or Fox. Which one is it going to be? It's got to be one or the two. And there's arguments on both sides because this thing is snowballing. And it's starting to snowball quicker than we can keep up with. It's going to become an avalanche if this losing continues. Winning might put a couple of sandbags on it, but this thing's going to keep going. And we're 6 weeks away, by the way, 6 weeks from the trade deadline. That could be a really long 6 weeks. De'Aaron Fox thinks this team's destiny is out of their own control. That's crazy with 51 games left to go. Fans only. Coach B was coaching his ass off first year during games. It's been less ever since. The players are supposed to get it by now. And in his mind, maybe yes and no. Again, Coach Brown came out and called out De'Aaron Fox, the strongest that he has done publicly during their time together here in Sacramento. And look at how De'Aaron has responded. No balance at all. You know what? I don't disagree with you. Players need to know and accept their roles for a team to be successful. Agree, Al. Completely agree. Don't disagree whatsoever. HB should have stayed. Yeah. Look, I said it the other day. HB, you traded with HB, with DeRozan coming in and HB leaving. You gave up the things that don't show up on the stat sheets when you lost HB for the things that do with DeMar DeRozan. I think that's the best way that you can put it. Kings and ISO ball is weird. Yeah, it is very, very weird. Ain't no telling what Rich Paul putting in Fox's ear. I'm sure they think he should be a bigger star. It's pure speculation on my end. There's certainly, I think, something to that. The guy's got his own shoe. Now, you can't put that on a coaching staff. You could put that on an organization. Again, De'Aaron, I'm not going to play it again, but he basically said the organization, you either have to come out on one side of the fence. There's no in between. Either the organization's the problem, and they've not done enough for De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron Fox is that good that he can lead this. He is your number one. He is that piece that can lead you to a championship. You're either on that side of the fence or you're on the side of the fence that, as Kings fans, we've tried. We think the organization's tried to do everything they can. And Fox just ain't that guy. And we need to move on. We'll go to the phones one more time, and then we'll wrap the show up. Let's go to the phones. Keys Court, what's going on?
Oh, this is Sal.
BJ, what's up, brother?
What's going on? I thought I'd call the show and
wrap us
do
up.
something a little bit different. You kind of alluded to a couple of my comments in the chat. It was quite some time ago, but I'm from the old school, and for me, it's like if there's no structure and no definitive intentional roles, then basic basketball and basic anything, business building, family building, anything is very hard to fall back onto basic principles like spacing, ball movement, closing out. I think, we're pointing at the shiny objects of Brown and Fox, and of course Fox, they have to make a decision. We all know that, but let's face it, our Monty McNair, he kind of left Brown on an island with the person that he drafted. Not that we don't know how good he is, but it's like you've got another guard. Was he anticipating that Fox is going to leave anyways? Instead of getting what we need and the best player, we got the best player and another guard. So it's like, it's very hard when Brown came out early on and said, I don't know what my rotations are. I don't know my assistant coaches. I don't know. Basically, he's saying, I'm screwed. My hands are tied. This is what I'm working with. We're kind of making beef stew with everything that's good in the fridge. And whatever it is, throw it in there and see what happens.
Sure.
But if you don't have any structure, bring back the Princeton offense. Bring some structure into the thing, get some spacing, a lot of ball movement. How about holding the ball and making people play defense? If we're not going to make shots, how about defend shots? I don't know. I'm an old man. I really appreciate your show. I wanted to be a caller. One day I'm going to do a triple threat. I'm going to call in, I'm going to video in, and I'm going to have my statement read on the line. So I got to do triple threat. That's my goal for 2025.
I love
triple
it.
threat.
You're
All right,
the
love
man,
you, my
BJ.
man.
Be well. That's BJ. Alex, I'll get you next show. Actually, call Grant. He's coming up in just a few minutes. 4:00. Grant takes over for me here on the channel. Scout, not saying that at all, dude. Not saying that De'Aaron Fox is the problem. I'm not blaming him. You got to decipher the two. I ended the show on Tuesday saying De'Aaron Fox has done nothing wrong except the way he's handled the last couple weeks. Not saying De'Aaron Fox is the problem. There is blame to go all the way around from ownership down. And I don't have enough time to do it. We'll hit it later tonight on the post game. We'll hit it tomorrow on the King's Court. What I'm saying is you have to make the decision between the two. And the decision that I would make, I am in the camp that De'Aaron Fox is not a number one. I am in the camp that you have done what you can with De'Aaron Fox. Nothing that he's done wrong except the way he's handled the last 2 weeks. He's a very good player, but he's not the player that wins a championship and takes this team to the next level. Now, that's not all his fault. That's not his fault whatsoever. Monty could have made moves on the fringes. The Lakers made it to the Western Conference Final with fringe moves the year the Kings made it to the playoffs, and the Kings were ahead of them at the trade deadline. The Kings were ahead of the Mavericks last year at the deadline. And the Mavericks made fringe moves, giving up at most a first-round pick, make it to the NBA Finals. The Kings have failed De'Aaron Fox at times during his tenure in Sacramento. Completely agree. But I am of the camp that you are still viable if you make the right move. You are still viable with what you have, and you can set up for the future and still be relevant, meaning it's not a rebuild. It's more of a recalibration. Now, you lose Fox for everything and you don't get anything for him, and now you trade pieces that you have right now under contract to try to improve this beautiful mess on hand in Sacramento, and then Fox walks, you have a bigger problem. So that's the solution that I believe in. That is my take. And no, it is not all his Fox, or not all his Fox, not all his fault whatsoever. So, hey, appreciate all of you. It has been a fun show. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow, 2 p.m. right here, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. King's Court is with you. Make sure you're subscribed to the audio channel as well. Scan that QR code. You get premium free audio over there outside of this show. This show goes up on there as well. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Remember, we've got a lot of programming left today. Just getting started. Grant is back in about 15 minutes. Halftime tonight with Jerry Reynolds and Grant. Join them right here on If You Don't Like That. And post game, Grant and I take your calls after the game tonight. Kings Pistons, Domas, game time decision was not at shoot around. Also, Devin Carter, per Sean Cunningham, cleared for full basketball activities. Grant, we'll talk more about that here in about 10 minutes. Thanks for being here on the King's Court. Appreciate all of you. Looking forward to the game tonight. Looking forward to your reaction as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, hope you had a great Christmas. Grant is with you in just over 10 minutes. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. Court is dismissed.